Hello, hello, and welcome to Awakening Your Human Design. My name is Moni, and this is Danny. And for the week of April 28th through May 3rd, the sun will be in gate 24 and the earth in gate 44.
24 and 44 are really interesting because I can't quite explain them until we get into the next aspects of explaining the gates and their position as the last gate of each quarter. That's what brings synchrony to these two gates as much as anything else.
That's really interesting because there's 4 quarters in the human design calendar. And so the 24 and the 44 are 2 of them that are the last bit before it transitions over into the new one.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Moni. I was counting on you to say the things too, because if I try to say the things, it becomes a run-on sentence.
I got to break it down simple.
Thank you, Moni.
Thank you. So thank you to our audience who is liking and subscribing and sharing and helping us grow. We really appreciate you. And let's get
share it. Yes, please share it. Help us get this out there. This is important, please. Yeah.
Thank you. So here we have our mandala wheel view, and we can see the sun is in gate 24, which is an Ajna gate, and this is the energy of rationalization. And the earth is in gate 44, which is alertness, and this is a splenic gate.
And 24 tells us what we're doing ending this quarter that the sun is in right now. It's a business of mind and coming to grips with mind is not in charge and mind just initiated things and that's it. And it's sort of coming back to relegating mind. And 44 becomes the alertness for that. The alertness to basically not just be alert individually, but be alert in a way that brings others to come to meet and do that. It's the alertness to tell and broadcast. It's part of the channel of the transmitter.
Here we have gate 24, which is the return and the gate of rationalization. This is the natural and spontaneous process of transformation and renewal. Gate 24 is an Ajna gate, part of individual circuitry, so you can think empowerment as your keynote, and it is part of the knowing circuit specifically. Gate 24 links up with gate 61, which is inner truth, and the 61-24 make up the channel of awareness. Gate 24 takes the unique inspiration of gate 61, turning it into a rational concept to be communicated to others, returning to the same territory over and over, pondering a thought it considers inspiring, and revealing it until it can be brought to form. This is a spontaneous process of transformation, mental renewal, and unique knowing. Gate 24 has a fear of ignorance as mental anxiety, and it's important to give yourself time to return and review with this energy.
And it's a fire to return and review is the thing. It's part of an awareness center. It has a built-in fear. That means it's always being, that bell is always being rung because it's perpetually aware of its environment. It's about to take that awareness and store it into a storage unit that has overall of time. It's not like a sudden thing that comes and goes. And it's not like this emotional process that might wave in and out and have different meaning at different ends of this pulse. This is just overall of time. You took it in, it's going to stay. And that's part of what nags people with this name, the return. So mentally speaking, this is a gate that can bring great mental anxiety. Why am I returning to this? Why am I returning to this? And if you're aware of it, like it's black because it's on your personality side, then you're seeing yourself doing it and you're coming up with all kinds of little strategies to try and get yourself out of doing that or put yourself into doing that. And so you don't have to do any of that. You end up just sort of allowing it. This rationalization and this whole channel itself, when you get to 61, that awareness again acts like very similar to the same lightning strike I described with the 3 and the 60 2 weeks ago. And so this is like a lightning strike that comes in. The awareness is profound, and that's what drives the return. It's a driving force to return to the thing that brings a rationale, and it demands that you now take into yourself the mental knowing that there are things you can know, and that's great. There's things you totally do know, even better, but there's things you cannot know. You must accept and transcend that limitation. You cannot know right now. Think of the 4 gates we've been talking about in these last 4 of this first quarter of initiation. They mean a lot. I've said it in every single episode up till now, and they mean a lot right now. These 4 gates come together to bring a final awareness, to bring a type of conclusion to this quarter. That's what the 4 ways do. They're the 4 ways of concluding the process. That is what the 4 ways is. And that this is the way of concluding the process of mind. Mind is going to help build the civilization, but mind is also going to relegate into the form and give way and stop trying to be the boss. Let's get done with this. We have a channel here. We have the channel of shock in this quarter. Let it shock yourself into the body finally. You know, Bruce Almighty, right? He buzzed him and he woke up. That's the form. It had nothing to do with mind, but mind is great and it holds on to it over all of time. Let it, but don't let it stay an anxious making thing. Just realize there's things you cannot know. And if it's unconscious and you just do the same thing, realize there's things you cannot know.
I appreciate your advice on accepting the things that, like, there's just stuff you're never going to know and you're not going to know it, because gate 24, it really is, it's receiving that pressure to know something, and it
24.
wants to, yes.
You said 44 accidentally.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gate 24, gate 24 is receiving that pressure to know something, because 24 is receiving that 61, which is that pressure. And so 24 is like receiving this pressure. And it's like, I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. But it's like, it can't know. Like, there's some things, maybe if it's connected and it can have it, but there's times I have the 24 hanging without the 61, and it's like the 24 will just spin its wheels into something. So I actually really love when the 61 is lit up, because I'm like, oh, now I actually have something that I can work with. Otherwise, the 24 just is like spinning over and over on something of like, I don't want to keep thinking about this. I don't want to think about this, but it's like, I need to get to the bottom of it. It really is that pressure. And as you said, acceptance that there are things that we cannot know. And oh, that feels nice.
This is so many, and there's so many of it. So much of it we cannot know. Come on.
Most of the things we cannot know.
Right. Most of it we cannot know. What are they thinking about me? You cannot know. You're not there. You're not them. Just from that mundane all the way up to the great big things, you know, we can't know. So most of it we can't know. You know, and it would also be a time to start to realize, and there's stuff you don't feel like knowing, even though you could. Hey, can you tear apart a motor? Yeah, there's something called the Chilton's manual. Moni, you can go look up the whole Chilton's manual and figure out how to pull apart a motor and put it back together. You don't want to, probably.
No.
Right. Stop returning to it. This thing is dying to have the rationale of the knowing, and what it's really doing is letting you know the era of mind as the torturer and the slave master of who you really are, accidentally and incorrectly, can be brought to a close here. So that's the deep, profound part of this that you get to just let happen if you hear my words and decide to let them in, you know? So, yeah.
There's a certain freedom in, hey, there's a lot of stuff we can't know and you don't need to know it. And if you don't need to know it and you don't even care about knowing it, you don't have to keep coming back to it. And if there is the stuff you're interested in, then keep returning to it and become an expert in it. And that's super fun.
And then it's fun.
And then it's fun, exactly. But those things that aren't fun, or that it is just exhausting, or you don't actually even care about it, but your brain's just like, you know, try to allow yourself that freedom to not have to know the unknowable.
This and every little sound matters here. It's so acoustic here. Everything is the sound that's pouring in from the pressure zone of the all, which happens up above in 61. Another thing to realize, the sound of your ambient around you matters a great deal. If there's something that annoys you a certain way, change that. That's something for this week. Absolutely. Now's the time to recognize what keeps driving you crazy about that is a noise in your way.
Here we have gate 44, which is coming to meet, and the gate of alertness. And this is the success of any interaction is based on the absence of any preconditions. Gate 44 is a splenic gate, part of tribal circuitry. So you can think support as your keynote, and it's part of the ego circuit specifically. Gate 44 links up with gate 26, which is the egoist, and the 44-26 make up the channel of surrender. Gate 44 is the gate of memory, remembering patterns for living that have successfully provided for material needs. This memory is integral and a consistently trustworthy part of survival intelligence as a species. This is instinctual alertness for correct, spontaneous relationship and interaction. And Gate 44 controls the way Gate 26 acts in terms of selling, defending, or fighting for the tribe. Material security and health go hand in hand.
They really do go hand in hand, and this is the channel of the transmitter. I transmit the message that ultimately is going to be right for my family, my tribe, and it feels right for me, and it feels like it gives us more strength, and more strength is better. And in a nine-centered form, especially when 44 is aware that coming together made more strength for us, but not to the detriment of you, of the other, like the other tribes. That's the old way, and 44 is instinctually aware of the old way versus the new way. That's why it works so good with 24, because this is the governor on 24, allowing the success of all the interactions, especially that with yourself in Gate 24. Let's face it, Gate 24's interactions are with itself. Gate 44's interactions are with itself and the other. Instinctually aware of the all of that, wicked aware of its environment in the now. Alertness is its name, and not just to what it sees, but obviously what it hears. So this becomes the governor on this opposition of 24 and 44 by saying no preconceived conditions. Just no, we don't have a preconceived condition, 24, that you need to return here anymore. That was a minute ago. That was yesterday before you fell asleep and regenerated yourself awake in the morning. This is a great gate of knowing, hey, I get to go to sleep and regenerate brand new tomorrow, and nothing from the day before is necessarily needing to be a preconceived notion for today. Think about that. That's serious Buddha knowledge and freedom in that respect. And it doesn't have to be something that's merely esoteric. It's a mechanic. You can start to choose today, right now. 44 says tomorrow gets to not have to think about the day before. That's one of its governing messages, although it's not on alert to what was the day before. So plenty of times you will have to think about what was the day before. All I'm saying is now you get to know most of what your conditioned 24 has been returning you with doesn't need to be a preconceived condition as you come to meet with the rest of that which keeps you healthy and safe the next day. It's a guaranteed off switch for the return, and the return is a guaranteed awareness switch that is worth returning to. Let's face it, it's an awareness. It's not a monkey mind when it's returning to the thing that 44 is. What's this? What's that I smell? What the heck's going on? I heard that. What? 44 is ready to leap into the alertness is to fight. When to fight is one of the right words. It's I gotta jump in. And that's 44. And it does so with awareness that makes it correct for the being. So what 24 returned to over and over again very much is part of this, but 44 gets the ultimate say when you let it, as it relates to that return. Well, last thing about 44, which is really cool. So 44 ends a quarter of duality. Duality is about the coming together. This is where we create the bonds, essentially, very much. And the spleen helps pull the people together to essentially make more children. This is very much coming together and melding together two into one. That's what the duality, the quarter of duality brings us. And 44 says, hey, the whole thing we were learning through all of this awareness, the first 8 gates that didn't have spleen stuff, and then the next 8 gates that were only spleen stuff, 44 says that whole dance we just danced, there's no preconceived conditions as we move into the next quarter, meaning it all just works. So that's what these are wicked mystical gates. These gates carry a lot of juice. I can tell because I'm talking a whole ton about them. And right, they're not just mundane in any way. So duality meets the end of initiation. What a great combination.
That's really interesting.
It is. I don't even know what to say to that. That was really cool.
That's why we just record it.
I'm glad it's recorded. Thank God it's recorded. Right.
Yeah. That's why we do it. Yeah, it's interesting because 44 is the instinct of the tribe in relationship to resources.
Yeah. It's wicked, like planning, calculated that way. Enough to where it can get the 26 can't necessarily be controlled, but if anything can, it's the 44,
The
right?
26, you mean, cannot be
It,
controlled?
yes, yes, the fire of the drumbeat to war potentially or not, and all of that, and the message, and I am, look, I killed it, look at me. 26 needs that energy, but plenty of times 26 will come in like, I caught a fish this big, and it sees 44 and it starts to pull its hands closer together. Well, maybe it was only this big because 44 knows it'll give up its spot. That's it. So 26 is aware of the political alliance it has with 44.
Yeah, and that aspect of 44 is tribal ancestral memory.
Yes. And think about its fear. Its fear, its actual innate tribal ancestral genetic fear is that of extinction. Extinction. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And there's a sense of like, hey, we got to be honest. We got to
Yeah.
be truthful. We have to know our history. Like 26, I know you want to exaggerate, but hey, we have to actually be honest for the sake of the ongoing survival of the tribe. Because the 26 can like fiddle with the memory a little bit.
Hmm.
Like you said, no, the fish was this big. Actually, it was actually this big. Right.
Right.
26 can kind of fiddle with it. The 44 is, making something pretty, and the 26 is going to sell it to other tribes.
Yeah, and the 44 is keeping track of all those little subtle manipulations to or more, pour on the gas harder, whatever is needed. And that's just a deep instinctual part of this whole memory piece of circuitry. We're calling it memory as if it's like Ajna stuff. It is not. This is a tribal instinctual memory, that which you are born with. The
It's like
reason a fawn comes out and it's walking, that's
a
um,
core body memory.
yeah, that's a body memory stuff, cellular memory, baby. Talks right through here. So this, by the way, the surrender itself, I've always asked myself, have you asked yourself, what is the surrender here? I don't know if you've asked that of yourself, Moni. The channel of surrender, 2644. I still
Yeah.
grapple with it. I've come up with, and I heard Brad describe it once, and it's basically that, and it's sort of what you would think the 26 and the 44 to themselves, such different, must surrender for the sake of the message. They surrender to one another for the sake of the message. So the fire surrenders to the ice and the water, and the water surrenders to the fire and the flame. Two potent things that don't normally go together, fire and water, right?
And we have to surrender to one another for the survival of the tribe.
And yes, and for the yes, for the survival of the tribe and the lack of extinction. That memory, deep cellular memory, is, hey, we can go extinct. I said that's a handy thing for humanity to have embedded in it in such a powerful way, pointing at gate 26. Thank you. That was a nice assist there, in my opinion, because hey, you can go extinct, dude. Sorry, that's a thing. And then your tribe can, which is locally extinct or whatever, but hey, it can all get washed away. The well can go dry, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
We could get the blight or whatever. Locust, it's right. Sometimes there's locust, dude. You guys,
Yeah, stuff gets real sometimes.
it's real sometimes. 44 is the wicked recognizer of that.
And
Super duper real.
and like cooling down that 26 that can maybe get carried away and not have that awareness. And it's
Yes,
almost like, yeah, like you said, dousing that cold water on the fire of like, hey, wake up, focus. We need to
right,
like real stuff, let's go. That's
right.
interesting. I've even been in situations that just kind of crazy. I have the 44.5 twice, and I've definitely been in situations where hey, stuff's getting real, where it's like, hey, real time, we're not playing anymore, like we need to deal with something real intense right now. So that's interesting to put a
Yes,
clarity
yes.
on that.
And by the way, it brings the initiator out, and it brings out the need to manifest, reflect, project, and generate all at the same time, right? See, we're all of it. We're all of it. Most of us are reflectors when we're asleep. So third of our life is that. It's like, it's all there. And 44 will rally it. It'll rally the entire chemistry of the body to be exactly all the types and all the channels and all the things all at once in ultimate protection of its tribal initial and special survival, as if that is real in the now. so can't tell that what to do. It'll tell you. I have it in the 6th line, 44:6, aloofness. I guarantee that all the conditions must be right if this aloofness is going to now do exactly what you just said, that in the 5th line, it will do as a general, basically also when the conditions are right.
Next up, we have our Incarnation Crosses for the week. We have the right angle cross of the 4 ways, which adds the 19 and the 33 to the 24 and the 44. And these are people whose very directions evolve consciousness and form together by seeking clarity or resolution through constantly revisiting mental concepts, such as what, where, and who is God. Then we'll move into the juxtaposition cross of rationalization, which adds the 13 and the 7. These are bright, intellectual, but incredibly fixed people trying to grasp continuity through both the past and future with the gift of using both logic and experience to translate individual knowing. And finally, we have the left angle cross of incarnation, which adds the 13 and the 7. And these are people with particular connection to both the past and future who can deeply impact your direction when properly aligned to their own geometry.
Yeah. Incarnation instead of reincarnation is a thing to sort of keep in mind, because it's just this constant incarnation. It's not all reincarnation, like, for people to think when they read this part of the cross. But back to the 4 ways. So the 19 and the 33 bring the remembrance and the removal of the self from the privacy of your own self into the approach of now speaking and manifesting the rest of the story, the whole story, and nothing but the truth if it's being itself. That's what 33 is here to bring. It reveals that which wasn't spoken before necessarily, or that which need to be spoken again. 33 definitely brings plenty of that which needs to be spoken again, and it will approach. That 19 will approach. It will walk right up to the gate to start talking. 19 does that. It walks, hello, it will do that. So these full 4 ways bring all the 4 quarters to an end. And it's just so funny that the very first quarter, ending the quarter of initiation, the way of mind, and mind's conclusion, in a way, conclusion and renewal and moving on into a 9-centered way is how I mean to say that. It brings it through God. And so pretend we're in an AA meeting and there's like, I don't care what you call God, but do you believe in a higher something, right? That's one of the requirements to be in an organization like
Even
that.
if it's just the court system that put you there.
Yeah. That's funny. That's funny. Absolutely. It's just
There's something bigger than you. You're not the one in charge here.
There's something bigger than you. Can you put yourself into that place? And for most people, it's real easy to say, yeah, it's God. God's good. God's good. God fills that place. And it's 24's rationalizing this. So the mind has been trying to figure out God the whole time, such that there's been holy wars and holy institutions, and we've, holy cow, spent a holy ton of generated energy towards that pursuit over the last, 10,000 years. It's time to take a break. We already know it's built into us. We're already it. We can come together and God is present. I mean, that's basically what Jesus said anyways, right? Come together in my name and you're good, basically, as for if the 4-year-old version of that.
Yeah, real simplified. That's perfect. It's great.
Yeah. So moving to the juxtaposition, we rationalize all of that. And now we're moving ourselves in the direction of the Sphinx. If you watch these last 4 gates, the infinite ways they tic-tac-toe, look what happens. 33 meets up with 13. We have a definition. This whole thing has been defining itself all the way through mutation from 42 in the first place. And now this definition, that is what the prodigal going to tell the story. The story is told through rationalization ending this quarter. The story is that which we needed to know, that which we definitely know, and that which we knew we couldn't know. And all of it consequentially and interestingly and stimulatingly. We just had 56 2 weeks ago as part of this mixture. Interestingly, tell the rest of the story of the consciousness we grew as knowing ourselves, the way that there is something bigger, that search for God, who is God. To us, that same analogy is us to mind. is the point here. So mind says, I think mind has been in control this whole seven-centered way. We're not seven-centered, we're nine-centered. Communion, mind is out of it now. It's just one of the aspects. And to have communion and beauty and movement towards that is all we really care about. If we all were to admit it on a impromptu form we sent out to the whole world, they'd all say yes to that. And this is the recognition that it's time to let mind go. Just as we are to God, old mind, now we're greater than it. Time to leave it behind. The old mind needs to now realize it's got something greater, and that's us, the nine-centered form. It rationalizes that as it comes to 13 and 7, because 13 and 7 are the prodigal that finished telling the story of where the influence and the leadership will go. By the way, didn't we have 31 in the unexpected 2 weeks ago? So again, the way these last 4 gates tic-tac-toe through each other is an incredible study to just look at. Then we move into incarnation, and what we're incarnating to is into civilization. People with a particular connection to both the past and the future. 24 is one of those things that guarantees what we're thinking about, not just the knowing of now, it's returning to past and future. It's sort of helping to regulate that so that it's constantly moving through the thing that moves through the individual definition, the sound wave that becomes the entirety of what we now know. I mean, we only know what the mutative wave brought. And then the collective takes it and knows it, you know what I mean? Shares it and understands it and feels it. And that's how we come to know, is through our experiential way. We're incarnating into the experiential way that has a deep connection to past and future. And it's furtherance of doing what the Sphinx does. It moves us through gate 2 towards beauty and communion, generated and understood and projected and manifested and reflected, with each other. That's basically what Star Trek said. Hey, in the future, there's a time where we don't have any money. We just don't need it. It was stupid. Everyone is their own best self. And in this time, we can't imagine that. But I bet we can, because 24 is helping to bring that to a conclusion. Now that I think of it, that's one of the things 24 is doing. It's finally coming to, the need to constantly have you, go hungry and starve with a bloated belly because there wasn't enough money sort of was stupid, I guess. It just didn't make sense. One other thing I would say just about this movement, it concludes us into civilization. We're all about to get to work building stuff. We've been building a platform, us, upon which we're about to build a bunch of stuff, civilization. So let the mind start to sink into its place away from being the petty tyrant that treats the body like a slave. In fact, 24 of all the gates can sit there and finally return to that and recognize, gosh, this thing is treating me like a slave. Each time I return to it, my body tenses up, my energy exhausts, I become lessened or I become greater. And you get to see which one it is. Let this be a giant Geiger counter for what lessens you and what emboldens and greatens you. You could just watch it that way. Easy, right? Sure. I'll start that tomorrow, Dan.
Super easy.
Yeah, super easy.
Perfect.
That's what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to pay attention to what were the dates? What's the date of this one?
April 28th through May 3rd.
I'm going to be paying attention. I want to watch 24 go to work. I already have 44, so I should be alert. I'm going to watch this.
Finally, we have our hexagrams for the week. We have the sun in gate 24, which is rationalization or returning, and the trigrams are earth over thunder, and the image reads, thunder dwelling in the center of the earth, returning. The ancient kings closed the borders at winter solstice. Itinerant merchants did not travel. The prince did not tour the regions. In winter, nothing moves or grows. Thunder dwells quietly at the center of the earth. When spring comes, it will surge up and rouse everything to new life. But at present, it is barely beginning to stir. Winter solstice, darkest moment of the year, is when light just begins to return. The ancient kings cared for their people as the earth covers a dormant seed. They contained people's impulse to rush out and resume business as usual so that the energy for growth would not be squandered in the depths of winter. This is the turning point on your path. A moment to be still and turn inward to listen for little glimmerings and inklings of awareness, to nurture the seeds of personal sense of direction.
God, that sounds like everything I just said. That just sounds like everything I just said. The thunder in the center, it's what 24 works with when it's working with 61 is that it's getting to its basically inner truth. I mean, that's what 24, the inner truth of how is it that I am also God? You know what I mean? That God is within me, shall I say? That's what we're all an aspect. And 24 is rationalizing that inner truth, and that's it. It's referred to inside the center twice while you were reading it.
Next up, we have the Earth in Gate 44, which is alertness, or in my I Ching book, it reads as coupling, Coupling. The trigrams are heaven over wind. The image reads, below heaven is the wind, coupling. The prince sends out mandates and commands to the four centers of the earth. The wind travels everywhere under heaven and penetrates every corner of the world. The prince receives the mandate, orders from heaven, and it penetrates to his core and travels through him. He cannot control or contain such power, but he can broadcast it to change his whole realm.
Gosh, that's powerful stuff. That sounds like how we were talking about Gate 44 in the first place. The transmission of the message that flies on the wind and penetrates to the core, you know. So again, it does speak much to how in our cells the 24 is helping to conclude this process that sees our beauty, essentially. Just to put it as simply as possible, 24 is rationale. It's supposed to be like, oh God, I'm great, I love this. that's what it's supposed to come to ultimately. And 44 is the alertness to bring together, to send the message, to do something. It even spoke to the transmitter to do something about that. You know, going to send it off to 26, who wants to roll up its sleeves and do something about that. I'll get that thing done. that's sort of funny.
So,
Yeah.
Final thoughts for our audience of how to work with the energy this week.
Use this gate of rationale, this return, to let you start returning. Just surrender to it and allow it to receive all that pressure that wants to keep going back and back. And I'll let Moni describe more of what that feels like. She's got it, and it's unconscious, so it takes you for a ride, essentially. So Moni will describe what that ride looks like. I say let it happen and start knowingly and consciously entering the experiment of witnessing these things really matter and these things don't. And with it will come this great awareness out of 44, because it's already there. You'll feel it as a gut feeling. You're right. The spleen will give you a gut feeling to this practice that I'm recommending you do. Like Moni, you can speak to it's always taking you for a ride. 24, is that right?
Yeah, 24 definitely will take me for a ride of it wants to know. It wants to understand and it wants to know, and it'll go over it and 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 over it. And there's the fun version of that, and then there's the not fun version of that. You know, the fun version is I'm studying something and I'm just going wild exploring when I'm, making presentations for the show and I want to just dive into some, specific aspect of human design. And there is just this drive to go over it and over it and over and over it and over it. And that can be fun because then I'm learning something and it's interesting. And there's almost when there's a way to understand it fully, then it could be fun. But then there's other times where something's just bothering me and it's just there and it's just looping and looping and looping and looping. And, it could range that realm of regret and, oh my God, how did I do this horrible thing? And just, guilty conscience stuff, or in that projector bitterness and resentment over like, oh, that happened. That's not fair that happened. Why did that happen? And then it's like looping in that kind of sense of it. And that can get really exhausting.
And mental anxiety making.
Mental anxiety, just dreadful mental anxiety where you're like, I don't even want to be thinking about this, but it could be something that's really bothersome. And then you know,
Has it
almost
ever
when,
brought you to the point of like making your heart palpitate or whatever, just having this flushy feeling, even
oh
including
yeah,
it?
I mean, just all sorts of stress and anxiety and crying and
Yes.
talking to myself and like trying to get to the end of something I cannot get to the end to. And that's kind of it where it's almost, especially because it's unconscious, having to give into it, because eventually something, either like you're going to stop caring about it, or something will happen, something will transit through, something will process, or you'll be listening to something and it'll give you a little tidbit of information, a little nugget of something that can allow for a sense of clarity, and then it could settle that in a way. Like eventually something will come through to give way to the desire for knowing, and then there's like an understanding and a peace that can come of like, oh, that had to happen this way so I can learn this thing, or that person was just trying their best and like they do care about you and you don't have to beat yourself up about that. Some kind of clarity will come through eventually, but it's like almost like you can't chase it because it's a pulse, right? So it's individual, it's part of individual circuitry, so it's in a pulse, so you can't chase the knowing to like, I really want to know it and I'm just going to keep digging until I get it. You just have to kind of go for the ride and let the knowing come through in that pulse when you're ready to receive it.
Experience the process of coming to know.
There you go. You just summarized it so nicely.
Does that sound right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Experiencing
summarized.
the process of coming to know, like even 44, coming to meet, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's coming to finally say what that knowing is. And so, even more so than I just reiterate, a lot of things will happen. You get to find out what matters and doesn't matter just by watching it. You'll get to have a recognition that there's a splenic hit, we call it, where you just get sort of this gut feeling. It's not a sacral thing, but it's still in your body that, not good, not good, right? And literally, listen to these little moments about what you're mentally returning to, because I can promise you the loudest part of this noise will be the mental return. It's not going to be the 44. The 44 is going to be there with it, right behind it, right with it, in lockstep with it. And so enter into an experiment willingly that says, oh my God, I do return to things I don't feel like it, and get that splenic hit of, I don't feel like it. This is a great time to, it's like a whole compass and a thermostat and other measured, this is like 10 other measuring devices all rolled into one in a real logical, clinical kind of way. You can look and make notes. What I don't want to return to, what I feel like I have to keep doing. Think of what the return does. I feel like I have to keep doing this. I'm returning to how can I not do this? You know, if you're returning to things of how can you not do, examine that. You probably shouldn't be doing it. You'll find out it's not right for your energy. And so examine this stuff and see what mentally your mind tortures you with. Because when that gate's not here, it's still in the world. And mind has been in charge for so long that it's torturing us on all six cylinders up there, you know, right? Six gates, all six cylinders are torturing us from that ajna that we have to get a good handle on, because that the not self in human design is the mind from our seven-centered way, conditioned into us to compete and initiate and be what we're not and do all the things that's not our type, our strategy, or our authority. So experiment with exactly sort of the way I'm saying it. Can you re-say how it is I'm thinking to experiment by chance? Because if you can't get it, then no one else will, Moni.
Let me see if I could flesh this out. Right. So grounded in the memory of 44, right? Because that's what's going to be
Mhm.
receiving the sun. So the earth is going to be grounded in the memory of 44, in that cool, instinctual, ancestral memory. And then for the sun to be able to shine, the gift of the 24, which is the desire to know and the rationalization and to go repeat something and go over and over
Yes,
and over again
in a healthy.
in a healthy way, right? That's what we're aiming for, like aim up for the healthy expression of these energies. So to play with it and like round that out.
To recognize that that which you've been returning to, because you've already been returning to something. We all do it. You know, I shouldn't have given that guy this thing. I still return to that thing, and that's from about 3 months ago. And so we all have it, and you'll find out what doesn't matter by what doesn't feel good. The spleen's instinctual memory will keep giving you a hit. It'll be like a little gut punch. You just have to watch for that little gut punch, you know?
And kind of just allowing yourself to let go of the things that don't matter. Like you don't need to think back to that stupid thing you did 10, 15, 20 years ago. Nobody cares. Nobody remembers. And if they do, they probably don't talk to you anymore and you're never going to see them again. Like,
Moni, thanks for bringing that up. Because you're speaking to that which is the frequency of mind it remembers over all of time, so this is a great time to find out in your rationale you don't want to care, just like you said, Moni. There's so much stuff you don't want to, I really don't want to have to care about that. If we gave you a checklist and said, do you or do you not want to care about it? We know the answer.
most things would be no.
Right.
I don't want to care about it.
I don't want to care about it no more. Right. So if you're a generator, let that frustrate you so you can see frustration is your signpost and satisfaction as well. Right.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like if it makes you frustrated and bitter and angry and disappointed,
yes,
like maybe let it go.
let it go. It's not for you. It's just not for you. One way, shape, or form. And by the way, it doesn't mean the memory is gone. You've got a guaranteed memory holder. Its frequency genetically in your body is to hang on to all the things over all of time. So let it.
Yeah, but you don't have to spin your mental wheels about it.
Having it matter, right? That's conditioning. Our conditioning makes us think we think it matters. I think that matters, and it doesn't. Things that don't matter. So yeah, do all of that. Good luck and tell us how it went. We got to start having some people on the show to tell us how all this stuff is going.
In due time.
Mm.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you to our audience and everyone who's liking and subscribing and watching and sharing and commenting and asking questions and all the good stuff. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for helping us grow. And we'll catch you next week for another transit.
Thank you, everybody. Love you very much. Good luck.